Howdy mates, good late afternoon. How are we all doing? Here's a part 2 video for today. I'm actually revisiting a park that I haven't been to for a good minute. And I figured I would come to this park because the Environmental Conservancy of Northport and surrounding areas basically had a fundraising event that was going on that was offering some blues style music, beer, food, and of course friendly conversation among other booths of other nonprofits that are ecologically minded, so to speak. So attending those types of events are always a pleasure because you are meeting like-minded individuals who have a respect for the natural world. Because I think the biggest thing that is really happening between development and among other factors, I think that there is a lot of apathy, which is why educating on those particular matters is so important. Because I think, apathy is the worst enemy of it all. Anyway, this is at the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park. This is actually one of the best protected parks, at least in my opinion, in the Northport area. Granted, I don't really make my way to Northport too often, just because I honestly really have no reason to, unless if it's for something specific. But in this case today, there was a good reason. But what I wanted to show you guys was this. Have you guys ever seen these before? They look like a vine, and they have a bit of a sharp edge, with a bunch of spikes, sharp spikes on them. Well, if you have, I'm sure you already know what it is, but for those of you who don't, this is known as the Saw greenbrier, in which there are actually up to 12 separate species of greenbrier, but it's listed under the genus of Smilax. That's usually how we commonly name them. But anyway, a neat tip, if you're ever in a survival situation, is you see the tip. Whoops. That didn't go as planned. You see the tip here? Right there? You can actually eat the first half inch of it. And it actually tastes a little similar to asparagus, by the way. Great source of vitamin A, as a matter of fact. And, it's not what you think it looks like, but you could say that it is. Oh boy. Okay. I digress. Anyway, fortunately, they are a native vine that is found in Florida, though they do behave somewhat like an invasive, just because they could crowd out any other area that they are growing. And they do indeed produce berries, as a matter of fact. But you kind of have to wait until it gets into a bit more of the fall season until you start to see those berries. And they are edible, too. And apparently they're known to be very chewy. Sorry, Star Wars reference. I make myself laugh sometimes. So yeah, it's a piece on the Saw greenbrier. So another particular plant that I wanted to point out. It's a loud bike. You guys see this right here? I'm sure a lot of you, this looks familiar. It has a bit of that rectangular stem. There you go. Of course, this is Saw Palmetto. But for those of you, I'm sure, who have seen Saw Palmetto, you've only seen the fronds themselves. But did you know that Saw Palmetto can actually grow quite extensively? They do have an extensive root system that exists within the plant. So really, when you're seeing the fronds, you're only seeing the tip of the Saw Palmetto berg. See what I did there? So, in a sense, this root network can stabilize our soil to allow other plants to grow, at least native plants anyways. And for another, their fronds can actually contribute to organic matter, which leads to formation of new soil. But you see this? See that on the ground right there? Yeah, right here. Goes all the way up. So that being said, we commonly, when we hear the phrase keystone species, we often think of wildlife. For example, the gopher tortoise. Well, keystone species doesn't necessarily only apply to wildlife. It can also apply to plants. So you could say Saw Palmetto is a keystone species for Florida's ecology, especially in the hammocks. I mean, just look at this. Look how extensive it is. Now, granted, much of our older saw palmettos are basically gone now, especially in northern Florida due to development. But it was said that those particular saw palmettos were actually a few centuries old, if not about 1,000 years old. So in other words, saw palmetto is a plant that can exist for a long time. I mean, its age range can be even older than that of our live oaks that we're seeing ahead of us. And for another, it is said that the berries of the saw palmetto can actually help enhance prostate health. As a matter of fact, saw palmetto berries are actually used as a prescription. So that must say something. If they're actually being offered in a pharmacy, it kind of tells you that they do offer some sort of medicinal benefit. And I did forget to mention, not to go back in time too much, the Smilax that I was pointing out, with the fact that they do make berries, those berries are used as a diuretic. So in other words, it can promote more urine flow. Diuretic is just a fancy term for that. So thought I'd throw that tidbit in there too. So alright, you guys, take care. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, Journey on a Journey is onwards. Take care, folks. See ya.